What up, my historians? So, I'm gonna be your host, Saul, and the person who made this slideshow was Enrique. Today, I will be talking about the South African Communist Party, also known as the SACP. Sorry. Moving on. Founded in Cape Town in 1921 with the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia in 1917, promoted many parties of revolutionaries across the globe to found Marxist parties of their own. The South African labor movement had a dramatic growth in the years after the First World War took place between white workers and the mining houses. Due to a fall in the price of gold and mining magnates, Smuts' government proposed to cut costs by lowering white wages and suspending color bars, allowing blacks to be hired in skilled jobs. Rand Revolt, known as the Rand Rebellion, took place in March 1922, an armed uprising of 22,000 white workers against the state. Election in 1924, Smuts was punished by white voters for putting down the rebellion, and his South African Party (SAP) lost power in the general election in 1924, replaced by a coalition-packed government of Herzog's Nationalist and Anglophone South African Labour Party. Moving on to the CPSA. Anyways, more radical, less racist, although still racist, so still kind of bad. Anyways, then the Labour Party, a party that was now willing to join a coalition with Afrikaner nationalists in order to secure interests of white workers at the expense of blacks. Comintern, the global organizations of communist parties dominated by Moscow. The party shifted from white labor to African proletariat. By the end of 1925, the majority of party members were black. Moving on to the same point, the CPSA first began to forge links of the ANC in the late 1920s. First person to say what the ANC is gets a shiva from me. Anyways, moving on, sorry. The radical Joshua Gumid became the leader of the Congress in 1928. The party stood left and right his stewardship. Under his stewardship, sorry, I'm really sick today, as you can tell. Under a number of black communists joined the ANC during the first period, the CPSA struggled at this time with dwindling memberships and attempts to Stalinize the party. Moving on to something kind of similar, just a different letter. CPSU, successful in influencing workers across radical divide, NP began to view this as a major threat to its own strategy of creating an Afrikaner national movement that united all social classes. Anti-communist fervor reached a peak in the build-up of 1948 election, with fear of Red Pearl communism, Black Pearl Africans. These were infused in the Afrikaner nationalist mindset. Whew, intense stuff. Anyways, going on. God, my head. Okay, over there. The AMW strike. The AMW organized strike of 1946 was crushed by police action. The strike failed to achieve any objectives, and workers were forced back into the mines days later. Brought up political change with workers and governments becoming more aware of the potential and communist-inspired protests. The new government took action against the CPSU as soon as Milan assumed office in 1948. NP closed down Soviet consular after offices in Johannesburg and Cape Town. The CPSA was a target of the government Suppression and Communism Act, which was passed in 1950. With the upshot of the new law, the CPSA was declared illegal and driven underground. Many of its leaders were issued with banning orders, which they defined by continuing to speak in public. The party was reconstituted, still illegal, as the South African Communist Party. You see that right there? This is the main point of what this slideshow was talking about. Also established in 1953. Yeah. Moving on. The SACP was also a highly disciplined vanguard party headed by a small group of professional revolutionaries. It was confirmed in 2013 after Mandela's death that the Mandela effect that he served a Central Committee before his arrest in 1962. The SACP and the ANC were a key player in integrating anti-apartheid groups through the COP. The white-dominated Congress of Democrats was essentially a front for the communists. The influence of the SACP was obvious in some of the strong socialist principles enshrined in the freedom character. Ruth First. Sorry. The leading SACP activist and wife of another leading figure of the SACP, Joe Slavor, a founding the Congress of Democrats and Freedom Charter. Next slide. Treason Trial 1956. The government issued the Freedom Charter as evidence in its case against the ANC leaders. The movement had been infiltrated by the SACP and that both organizations were guilty of treason by conspiring. Socialist revolutions lasted until 1961 and all defendants were acquitted. Oh my god. Helped to persuade the new generation of ANC leaders that the government was determined to increase in its repression of peaceful protests and destroy the resistance movement. Sorry, I butchered that so badly. Formed in 1961, strongly influenced by the SACP leaders who were also a part of the ANC. A SACP delegation was sent to Moscow in early 1962 and managed to secure funding, training, and other support. Bram Fisher, communist lawyer defending the defendants in the Rivonia trial. Oh my god, I'm sorry. Tried for treason. Sorry, I'm out of it right now. Tried to treason on a separate trial in 1965 through 1966. He died of illness while on compassionate release from his life sentence in 1975. Oliver Tambo. The liberation struggle fell to the ANC headed by Tambo, Kontan, and Slovo. All traveled to the Soviet Union to receive guerrilla training in 1964. The relationship between the ANC and Moscow continued afterwards. The SACP had a hugely important influence on development of the libertarian movement because 1948 between 1948 and 1964. I need a cough drop. Okay. Anyways, moving on. One perspective of the SACP influence includes that it was all too easily to my head too easy to extricate its role because of the intent anti-communist propaganda of the government. The ANC was also the larger and more influential of the two organizations. Dang. Like I said before, first person who says what the ANC is, I will give you one of my Ushy bucks. Several of their leaders' members were not even communists. See that? They were actively hostile towards communism. The ANC may have also won more sympathy and support from the white population has it not been for its ties with the SACP. The ANC's proximity to the SACP alienated the Africanist wing. Anyways, I believe that's it with today's slideshow. Today's video is sponsored by Ryan Ushry's Ushry Bucks. So like I said before, the first person who says what the ANC is, I will give you an Ushry Buck unless somebody already said it. Anyways, yeah. I predict a man is gonna say it, or Josh. Anyways, yeah, that's it for today's video. Oh, and one more thing. Ignore I'm in the background. Anyways, moving on. Today's historian of the week is Luisa Lopez. Everyone give her a round of applause. Woo! Anyways, that's it for this video. Thank you. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and share this video because we gotta get that ad revenue, you know? Alright, bye guys. How do you pause this?